This is Doug. We're going to discuss the different types of psychological phenomenon, some that are more like Doug and some that are more like emu. Emu, that is. I smell refried Doug leftovers from the Doug roast. So, in the spirit of full disclosure, get it? Full disclosure? Spirit? I'm going to get this all off my chest. I don't know, maybe we'll make old Doug. I get Limu and Tiger Doug and Emu Doug all mixed up all the time, and he might just be a regular part of this presentation, so much so that he wants to shove that emu so far it turns me into a human feather duster. We'll see. You never know what the future holds. But in the spirit of full disclosure, I want to talk about these different type of psychological phenomenon revolving around this issue. And I've referenced it before as a consciousness separation device. Those who can see and those who can't. And so on those blanket statements, I'd like to make a differentiation between the tens of millions of people that pass the same spots on the road that I do. Very few of these are on backcountry roads. They're all roadside, and most of them are on main arteries. Some of them, like southern Utah, between St. George and Provo, tens of miles, as far as the eye can see on both sides of the road. Plasma fire. So there are millions upon millions of people that do pass this by and pull a limu, stick their head in the sand. And then I have people from different places saying, I don't consider myself one of the sheep because I can see a difference between my consciousness and those around me, but I still don't see it around here, so what's the deal here? It appears that there's a big difference. It's not evenly and equally distributed across the land. In some places it's more than others. That may have to do with magnetic ley lines or earthquake fault lines or the composite, the compost, whatever the ground is made of. If it's more rocky or a less dense or a more dense soil. But either way, it's not evenly distributed. But I'm pretty sure that just about everywhere is a little bit. And some places have a lot. So, removing yourself from the equation when I make these blanket statements will allow you to see the tens of millions, not you impersonally. If you remove yourself, you'll be able to see clearly the millions and millions and millions and millions of people that pass by the plasma fires I show you every day and never notice. But what about me? I haven't seen it yet either. And does that mean I'm clueless and conscienceless? And remove yourself from the equation and let's talk about those millions of people and that psychological phenomenon. That's one. The denial, the limu effect. There's another one, normalizing it and minimizing it. And I've said this many times that people do that in order to be able to forget about it. On a lot of things, not just this particular subject. Like the old man Thayne. In one of my previous videos, I've referenced this before, where one of these plasma-fired logs in an old man's field where I was out there picking up bales of hay, and I'm filming it, and he comes along in the truck. I say, what do you think of this? And I push pause on the camera, talk to him for 5 minutes, get back in the truck, say, that old man told me he did it! To try to normalize it and minimize it. To keep everyone calm. So everyone's just calm. And that's very similar to what Doug has done. Normalizing it and minimizing it. And there may be certain situations where that's appropriate to not, yell fire in a crowded theater. But it's inappropriate to not yell fire in a theater that's really burning. And that's a psychological phenomenon we're going to discuss also. So one of the ways Doug normalizes it and minimizes it is by saying, I guess it's everywhere, Literally, when he cuts to this part of the video, he mumbles my name. He's like, so yeah, Jeff Snyder, and then this guy, and then that guy, and the other guy over here in Britain, and on the East Coast, and then Jeff says that Laura, this lady on the Florida says that she saw it. A, you mumbled my name before you literally, your tone and cadence goes, Jeff said that this lady in Florida said that she's seen it. And you know damn well, you've seen the video yourself. But instead of telling them, here, jazzwe.com, jeffsnyder2.com, here's a link to the video from the Florida plasma fire and all the 8 other states I've documented it in, you tried to normalize it by acting like it's everywhere. Until a week ago, when it showed up in your backyard, it was just this one guy who seemed to find it everywhere he went. And we're all just saying, well, it's not in my area. Glad it's not in my area. Suddenly, oh, it's everywhere. And this guy's talking about it, that guy, this person over here. And it's just one of the ways he normalizes it and minimizes it by diffusing. Acting like it's been here for a long time and it's always been this way and we're just noticing. And since everyone's talking about it, all these people from the East Coast to Britain, you as the individual viewer, there's no onus upon you. There is no urgency for you to look into this. See, Doug lied to his audience. He portrayed the idea that this is all new to him because if he told them I've been watching this for 2 years and not said anything to you about it, they might say, well, what else are you withholding, Doug? This seems kind of like an elephant in the room that you've been not talking about. And in order to avoid acknowledging that that is the case, he has to pretend like it's something new that he just discovered yesterday, rather than acknowledging he's been watching this for 2 years and said nothing. And much like Matt from Quantum of Conscience says, you know, these truthers and spiritual guru types that want to engage in the law of attraction and not focus on the negative, just focus on the positive. But don't deal with this creepy dark reality that Matt calls it. They don't deal with the dark reality that we study. That those probably aren't people you want to be taking advice from. And if his audience found out that he's been hiding the elephant in the room from them, they might not find him to be a trustworthy character to confide in for much longer. So he had to play it off as if it's new and different. Rather than saying, here is a 2-year-long, extensively detailed documentary of these plasma fires in at least 8 different states for the past 2 years. Instead, here, I've got one piece here, and here in another week or 2, I'll go back and get another photo, and we'll do lesson plan number 2. But I'm going to start you out with lesson 1, as if this is all new. And the only way he has the luxury of being able to do that is because he's been acclimated over the last couple of years. Otherwise, I trust that he's still got a little bit left inside of him, enough that if he discovered it, he says, I'm really pressed for time. I'm real busy. I'm real short on time lately. But here in the next week or 2, I'll get back to 40 minutes away from his house and take some more video and show you give you another little tiny taste of the gravy. Another little niblet of truth. If he discovered this, he would reprioritize all those things that are so pressing and say, hold the phones. This issue is urgent and needs addressed. Those other things, cancel my meeting for tomorrow. I'm going back there to get more video of this. But I absorbed the insanity of that part of the discovery for him. So he can play all calm and casual and go, hey, maybe it's always been this way, or at least for the last 2 years. But, maybe it's always been this way. Downplay it for him. Act all calm and casual. I got other things. I'm busy. It's like that Elon Musk tweet where there's an asteroid hitting the Earth, comet, tearing the Earth up, and someone from the moon talks about the economy. Oh, the economy's cratering. Yeah, trees are burning from the inside out, but I got shit I need to do, man. I got to pay the bills. I got a job. I got things to do, okay? I'm short on time. That plasma fire shit, that asteroid coming in, man, I got stuff to do. That has to wait. No, if you discovered this, all your other things would have fallen into the background, and you would have been the guy who dropped everything. But instead, you've been the guy that got to sit back and watch for 2 years. And that's the only reason you can play all calm and collective and nonchalant, downplay it, normalize it, minimize it, and blow it off like it's no big deal and tell them, here in a couple weeks, I'll give you another little taste of the truth. Instead of saying, there's the 2-year-long, extensively detailed documentary from 8 different states, I'll go back up there and make that 40-minute drive here sometime within the next couple weeks and get you another Another little taste of the truth. Oh, well, Doug must not be worried about it. And he says all these other people are talking about it. Guess I don't need to worry about it either. I'll be looking forward to that here in a couple weeks. If we're all still here. And by pretending that this is all new to you and that you don't have a 2-year-long degree in your education of this is a lie by way of omission. You left that little part out. That's what they mean by the whole truth. And you left out that little part about the fact that you've got a 2-year-long education in this while you're pretending that this is the first time you've ever come across it. And we'll get back to you here in a couple of weeks. You pretended. You lied. A lie of omission. There's only one other kind of lie, and it's a lie of commission. It's the difference between implicit and explicit. Just to simplify this all, my last video, I was bearing my witness of Doug's actions. This is what I see of Doug and what he did. And what I saw him do was deny me his witness. And that's what it was really about. He wanted to cover the plasma fire, but deny me his witness. And in that way, he denied his witness to all of his viewers and bared false witness. Incomplete witness, and incomplete is incorrect. In a court of law, that would be considered perjury. When you pretend you only know this much about the subject, and it turns out you got a 2-year-long education on the subject, that's a lie. You were pretending you knew less about the situation than you really did. To jail with you. Perjury. And for those who think, oh, well, you should just be a little more humble, Jeff. The fact that you're even saying all this shows that your ego's bruised and you're speaking from ego. That's vanity. It is more humble for me to come out and say this than to take the high road and just be polite and not say anything. And, it takes a bigger man to walk away and all that shit. I know that's what the viewers are going to use. And I don't care. You can look at me as prideful and vanity and arrogant and egotistical. And the truth is, the fact that I am able to just come out and put it straight and not worry about what you think of me and how you might interpret and accuse me of being prideful or ego or arrogant or jealous or any of that shit. This is more humble. Bearing the truth. Caring what other people think of you is vanity. And that's why anyone would just, well, I don't want to say anything. I'm just going to, take the high road and not mention it and be more polite. And that's more humble of me. No, that's more vain of you because you want to look humble in the eyes of the viewers. So you're just not going to say anything because if you said anything, then they'd see you as prideful. And when you're focused on how they see you, that's vanity. Pride is a good thing. Vanity is taking pride in the way others see you. So I wondered this before, because Doug tells me he's got a local group of people he meets with, and that group is growing, and they're meeting like on a weekly basis of truthers, right? And it's mostly based around the COVID mask crap. And when I made my first video, I said that I had assumed that he tells his truther friends about the plasma fires. And then once I put 2 and 2 together, I realized either he doesn't tell them about the plasma fires or he doesn't tell them about his YouTube page. Because if he told them about both, they'd be able to see that you're withholding that information from those people on your YouTube page and therefore misleading them. So he can't tell his truther friends that he talks to in person about the plasma fires and the YouTube page, one or the other. And that's why he went about finally producing a YouTube plasma fire video, because his wife forced him to, because the shit showed up in his backyard. And at that point, it's like when I reached out and grabbed Amber's ear. She said, oh shit, what do I... At that point, he has to try to present plasma fire without revealing the fact that he's known about it for 2 years and said nothing. And the only reason he did that is because it showed up in his backyard and his wife brought him and put it in his lap. And the reason he can't just give a full-throated, full disclosure in the spirit of full disclosure and contribute to this economic boom that humanity's going through, because all wealth is knowledge and all economic growth is learning. And if all you wanted to do was contribute to that boom and that learning growth curve that we're going through, you would have engaged in the conversation from the spirit of full disclosure. But you didn't. because you didn't want everyone knowing that you've been sitting on this for 2 years and talking about other things. Now that you have to talk about it, well, shit, now that would be like conceding to Jeff and his rant against me. And, okay, I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to do it in such a way that... And what you came up with was to pretend it's all new to you, to imply there's all these people talking about it, that it's been that, maybe it's been that way for a while. Yeah, because you've seen it for 2 years. If you just barely discovered this, that would not be one of your immediate assumptions or theories. Nor would you say a couple weeks from now, I'll go take a second look. You're welcome. I got you through that phase. You don't have to drop everything you're doing. Reprioritize your schedule. Cancel your meeting for tomorrow and head back there and take a video today. You have the luxury of being able to act all nonchalant and act like maybe it's always been this way because you've been watching it for 2 years. You've become accustomed to it. And we use words very specifically, and you seem to confuse the words seeing and saying or showing. Showing and telling are two different things. And when it comes to that lady in Florida that I mentioned, where you're talking in this tone and tempo, and Jeff said that lady in Florida said she saw something. No, you saw it with your own eyes. And then, this guy on the East Coast, he's showing. He's showing? Where? Make it available for us to see. You know damn well Laura didn't say she saw something because you saw the video yourself. But you said some lady in Florida said she saw something. Why wouldn't you at least provide them with that truth? Because that leads back to me. And it was more important to you to deny me your witness than it was to bear your full disclosure, unadulterated testimony of the truth to your viewers. So you gave them half-truths and adulterated it and diluted it and watered it down. They got a little taste and they were told in another couple weeks, I'll give you another taste. So now that you've taken it upon yourself to be the dispenser of knowledge to them rather than giving it all to them and say, you do with it what you will, you've now placed an onus and a responsibility and an obligation on yourself. And if you want to start at lesson plan 1, and here in a couple weeks, I'll give you lesson plan 2, and we'll pretend that this is only the second piece of knowledge we have on this subject, rather than just showing you the 2 years worth of documentary and telling you where you can go to get it. You decided you want to be the dispenser of that knowledge and meter it in measured drops. Why you decided that? Again, this is part of the psychological phenomenon that we are discovering and identifying and defining. So we've got at least 2 different psychological phenomena now. The denial, the people that drive right by and pretend they don't notice nothing and have convinced themselves that that was just fire that flipped over those cars, that ripped those roofs off of those houses. I'm trying to remember the fire chief's name. Shasta County Fire Chief Mike Hebrard, Hebrard, scolded the reporters at the end of a news conference where all the reporters were sitting in front of him, and he had the fire chief and a few other officials, and they're all taking turns at the mic answering questions. And toward the end, I might include a link in the description to this, he gets on there and says, you guys have the evidence, you have the photos and the video, those roofs that were ripped off houses, trees that were uprooted. Fire didn't do that. A tornado-like wind did that. Link will be in the description for that, along with a timestamp at the end of that interview where Mike Hebrard, Shasta County Fire Department Chief, steps up and tells them, fire didn't do that. Fire didn't rip those roofs off those houses. Fire didn't uproot those trees. It was the tornado-like wind that they add to enhance and multiply the effect of the directed energy weapon plasma fires. You whip up a vortex wind, and there you go. So back to the original images. At least 2 psychological phenomenon we've identified so far and are beginning to define. This is the people that just drive by.
and don't see anything.
And then you have the people like Thayne, old man Thayne, link is in the description, where he claims he did the plasma fire. And I've explained before, there's no way he even burnt one stick. Yet he comes along when I ask him, what do you think of that? And tells me, oh, I did it. Yeah, I just bring my old sticks and throw it on the old stump, try and get rid of the old stump. He didn't do that. Nor did he even bring a stick afterwards and burn on that stump. So he is intentionally inserting disinformation. And I'm sure, just like honesty without compassion is cruelty, he thinks he's doing a service and being some sort of lofty, high-minded notion of morals and virtues by lying to you and saying he did that. He's just protecting the community from the truth. Now, there's a reason that the 800-pound silverback gorilla up on the hill must maintain his composure, because everyone else looks to him for the signal of whether or not we should freak out. And when he starts freaking out, everyone starts freaking out. So there's a reason for that. And this is going to wrap right back around to Gregg Braden and the temple complexes that we no longer need, because our relationships with each other are how we explore those parts of ourselves that are asking for a greater healing. And that part of yourself that wants to serve others, and even in the way of trying to keep them calm by protecting them from the truth, it doesn't go well. That's an inappropriate way to apply that part of your desire to serve. Gregg Braden talks about the inner warrior. I was just watching his video last night. I'll include the link in the description from Awakening to 0 Point, because a lot of that stuff is very pertinent and will be included in very near upcoming episodes, because we're at 0 point. And the manifestation of your thought into reality happens much more quickly when the magnetics reach 0. That is the collective consciousness that is kind of a subject for a different discussion, more etherical. So, you have the head in the sand people. That's one psychological phenomenon. The millions and millions and millions and millions that drive not by, through the plasma-fired forest on both sides for miles and don't even notice. That's one. The other one is people that will actively and intentionally, willfully fabricate, exaggerate. You know, exaggerating the contributions all these other mysterious implied people have contributed to his knowledge and understanding of plasma fire, and minimizing the other guy that he mentioned and threw in there. Some people will fabricate out of whole cloth complete lies like, I did that. Yeah, I burnt it. And it may be coming from a good place, but that part of ourself is something that needs addressed. I watched my stepdad protect my mom from the truth about her behavior over the last 15 years, and it's gotten them to a very bad place. Honesty would have done both of them a lot better. But instead, he took the comfortable, convenient way and allowed her to continue with her self-destructive behavior. And now they have to both deal with the consequences. So this other psychological phenomenon of wanting to protect, that's what a 800-pound silverback on the hill does, protect. But when it gets so twisted and you're misguided in your effort to protect people by protecting them from the truth, and I'm going to tell them, but I'm going to tell them this part, and then I'm going to add some of that in and take this part away, and then that way I'm helping them, I'm giving it to them in a more acceptable way. Lying in the name of compassion is a very slippery slope. And whatever lofty, high-minded moral notion of virtue like compassion that you're going to attribute to your behavior as the reason why you lied in the way that you did is another very slippery slope. Protecting people from the truth is probably a misguided way of trying to protect people. And what you're doing is protecting your own comfort zone. So you don't have to face the uncomfortable truth. You downplay it, normalize it, and minimize it for everyone else so that we can all just go on with life as usual. That's what the old man did. He wants to go on with his regular life, old man Thayne. So, he ain't going to let everyone else know about what happened here. Otherwise, life as we know it, and life as normal, will suddenly be in an upheaval. And everyone will stop what they're doing. And I don't want them to stop what they're doing. I just want to keep doing what we're doing. So I'm going to just tell them I did that. I'm going to just tell them, oh yeah, no big deal. Here in a couple of weeks, I'll go back and get another picture. Maybe it's always been that way. You know, he's talking, they're talking, the working theory. People are calling it plasma fire. There's plenty of people out there on the job. Don't you worry. You know, I'll go back in another couple of weeks and no big deal. You just keep doing what you're doing. So instead of just letting them have it and contributing to this economic boom and this growth spurt of learning that we're going through, like a parent talking to a child, you wanted to meter it to them and give them just little parts that are appropriate for their level of understanding. And then later on, when they're a little more, you know, if you're new to this, said that twice. So if you're new to this, blah, 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 blah. Don't talk to them like children, Doug. You and I are still children. Regulating the flow of information and what you will allow them to have access to puts you in a very precarious position.